All right. Welcome everyone to the third and final talk of the Good Design Assembly. I'm Liz from Works of Heart, and I'll be your host for today on this topic of branding messages for a better future. So, for those who have been joining us from the last two talks, welcome. And for those who are just joining us for this talk, I'd like to introduce to you what Good Design Assembly is all about, which is where social impact and design meet. So, we gathered studios and organizations across Asia to discuss what it means to design for social impact, and more importantly, how we can do it together. So, as a social impact design studio ourselves, we initiated this space out of our desire to learn, exchange, and enrich our understanding and practice in designing for social impact. And as I have learned in the previous talks, there is a lot of work to do, and we need more people to work together. So I'm joined today by fellow Works of Heart members who will help facilitate the roundtable discussion as well as the Q&A, audience Q&A later. So please introduce yourselves.
Hi there, good afternoon. I'm Inya. I'm a designer at Works of Heart.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very excited for today's session. I hope that everybody can take part and enjoy the discussion later. So, talk to you guys in a bit.
Yeah, I'm equally as excited because we're not only talking about branding, but branding as a tool for social impact and for communicating the future we want to build. So we'll be hearing a diverse set of perspectives today from a design studio, from an organization, and from a person who has organized a program that brought together designers and businesses alike. So we have a lot to talk about today, and I hope everyone is just as excited as we are going to learn from our speakers. So I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Mag Wong. She is the founder and a graphic designer at Scut, a graphic design studio based in Kuala Lumpur. Their goal is to achieve timeless and engaging solutions through strategic storytelling, especially for small businesses. They have worked on a wide range of branding projects across different industries, from retail and lifestyle, and of course, impact-driven organizations. So okay, so Mag is still trying to get into the call. So before we go into Mag's talk, we'll first introduce Miki-san to talk about his projects and his organization. So I'd like to introduce Mikiharu Yabe. He has managed many international projects through his firm, Agent Hamyak. He gathered teams of creative professionals of different nationalities to produce various campaigns and projects. In 2015, he launched the Designers in Residence program, Door to Asia, which connects Japanese businesses with international creative.
不能，我一按 join 它就变这样子。
Oh, I think Mag is here. Okay, so hi Mag. We'll be starting with Miki-san, and then we can go ahead with your talk after that. There. Okay, so yeah, I was saying that Mikiharu was connecting Japanese businesses with international creative professionals across Asia through design in Tohoku, Japan. So I'd like to turn over the floor to Miki-san.
Sorry, I can't share my screen. Sorry. Oh. Sorry, I can't share my screen. So I think while someone sharing screen, I can't share the screen. Okay. It works. Sorry, in trouble. Yeah. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay? I'm Miki from Japan. I live in Tokyo. Of course, I love Philippines as well. Let me introduce myself. We're going to talk about, before talking about Door to Asia, this is my company, Agent Hamyak. Actually, I'm not a designer. I'm the one, I'm like bridging designer, artist, graphic designer to the client. So I do like a project managing also. I suggest the artists as well. Then I do everything for make it happen. This is me. Yeah. I used to live in London. Then since I moved back, I published a book of Asian creatives because I love Asia. Also, I wanted to know what's going on in Asia. Then it looks like all men, but I have to update. There's many women in Southeast Asia in creativity. Then we introduced 10 cities, 10 countries in the region. Then Philippines was done much Tina. There was other creative. Then also I worked with Singapore curator, Jackson Tan. Then we did creative cities. Then it was to showcase of the creative in 10 cities, including Australia as well. Then I was in charge of Tokyo curator. Then also I did a project with Singapore designers and also Japanese craftsmen. Then Japanese craftsmen, they don't know how to communicate international audience. Then Singapore doesn't have so much craft, so we collaborate together to make something great to appeal to international market. Yeah, something like that. So they visited studio. Yeah, then back to North Asia. The reason why I was into more like a Tohoku region, which is, you may remember 2011, we had big earthquake and tsunami. Then also hit by Tohoku is northeast Japan. Then at the time, I was in London. I was useless. I couldn't do anything. Then I always want to do something. Then one of my friend, he said this great thing: if you are in design field, you will have a role to play for Tohoku people even after 10 years. Then he's working in creative because he's under like a Monocle magazine. He's also a victim of Kobe earthquake, 1995. So he knows power of design. Then also one day we can help. Then, but I don't know how. But then other opportunity, I was kind of one of the member, one of the co-founder of Duarte Asia. Then there's 3 members, Kato-san, he's Mr. International Exchange. He has been working many exchange programs for over 30 years. In his first career, even that they found a national orchestra in Honduras. So it was still a dangerous place, but he was brave to organize that sort of orchestra. He used to work Japan Foundation until 2016. There was another guy, Yuichi. He is the guy he's connecting regions in Japan. In his first career after he graduated, he said his career that he did hitchhiking to travel around Japanese local village and town to see the value of him, to measure value of him. So that's why if he doesn't value, no one introduced to next place. Then he has value, so that's why someone let him in the car to go to the next place. Then he has a challenge of the problem of we have facing big aging problem. So he went to there also to try to find what we can do. There was me myself. Actually, my first career was like a producer, but I was kind of director of the fashion show in Japan. Then also my boss was half Filipino, so that's why I grew up with adobo. I ate almost every weekend. Then I worked many international projects, but at that time I couldn't only speak body languages. Then moved to London. Then I set up agency, Fujitachenko agency with a British couple. Then moved back to Japan. Then by the 2013, then actually Duarte Asia like working like this. None of them are designers, but we love designers. Also, we love to help people. Then we need, but so that's why we need designers to solve the problem. Then that time, we started 2015. That time in Tohoku, the region, but also I'm going to explain about the situation in Japan. Also, might be same in anywhere. But before, I saw designs only have in big city. There's not so much in countryside. But normally, how it works for design. big business, they pay commission by money. Then after we deliver, they just we deliver what they need. I think that's like a, because that is normal way for the big company. But for local company, also small and medium-sized business, always has problem. They don't know what is design. They don't know who they should ask. There was risk of investment for the both side. Local business, they can't pay to the designer until they get profit from the product. Even if they make package, which is still investment, but it's hard to pay until they get, but they don't know it's going to be successful or not. Then also because of that, also lack of maintenance. It's quite hard to, because for the small business, they don't have a section of like a PR or merchandise marketing. Just like most of them are business owner. We have to talk. Then they have lots of things to do. Then it's quite hard to maintain the relationship as well. Then also to do it, obviously, we have to suggest a marketplace, domestic and international as well. So that's why we thought we should organize, we should make the program. It's called Designers in Residence Program. Bring together different culture and perspective, solve the problem brought by natural disaster. But even still 5 years later, then designers will learn how design can contribute to the community and small businesses. Then for the designer, but actually Margot also, Roxy was also, Ina was one of them in the same year. Then this third also connected with fellow designer from different area. There was a learning experience because we have a designers residency program. So they have to stay in one place. Then we have to learn what design can do. Then also local company, it's a good thing as well, because we can have really like a deep communication for 3 days. So designer can present the possibility of the business by visual design. Then also they can be like a friend forever. Then it was 2070 batch, but you can see Ina was the mug. Roxy was carrying the baby for work. Then there's 4 companies. So that's why 2 designers work for 1 company. And there's some that Ichiba and fish. Then also Peace Jam is mom and kids place. They can work together. Then also seaweed, mug work there. Then also Apple company as well. But this is how they work for 12 days. They come to Japan to introduce each other. Actually 4 to 6 is homestay and learning process. Then 9, 8, 10, it's really hard for designers. They have to make presentation only 3 days. Then many of them have sleepless night. Then actually this introduction, this is the first time they didn't know each other at the beginning. Then it's they are representing each country. Must be pressured. They came together and talk about what the design are seen in each country. Then also what they do. Then go to Tohoku region. Then they introduce to local company. Also local company also introduce each other. Then afterwards, designer also company keeps kind of a request, like a priority request, which designer they want to work. Also designer also write a note which company they want to work. Then afterwards, we consider their opinion. Then we match the matching, which designer is going to which company. Then 3D learning, they do homestay, they're working together. They also even they do their work as well. Because also through the homestay, they can understand what, not only like a company, also they understand family as well. Because most of the company, they run family business. Then after knowing previous generation, which is my father, parents, they also themselves also kids, then they can understand, but we can also see how to sustain their business as well. They also got not only like learning from the company, also we invite local kids. They also present what they have in the city. Yeah, this is really hard work for designer. 3 person, some of them working 3 or 4 a.m. the middle of the mountain. Then also after presentation, we call this the gift to the company. Actually, we have been doing Tohoku until 2018. Then I'm going to give you one more example of how it's work. Then this is a good example of Dignopons. Dignopons is oil producer. He does by himself everything from produce, package, deliver, wrapping, everything. He's crazy, Superman. Then he produces oil, rapeseed, sunflower, also parilla oil. Then designer is 2 designers. Ellie, it's totally different world she came from. She's still based in Shanghai. She's been working in a multi-international advertising agency for many years. Then Russ from Manila. At that time, he was wondering how to run his own business, besides also how to sustain his design studio as well. I think this is the conversation I still remember. Then Ellie asked, do you use advertisement? Then he said, I don't like it. Oh my God, I don't believe in advertisement. To the Ellie who has been working in advertising agency. Then normally if you work in big company, we can also check the revenue from their website. Then they ask, what is revenue? Why I have to tell you? Oh my God. Then why don't expect your business, which is good. Then why you have to expand? Then they lost words. They don't know how to help even that. Then after having a few conversations, even overnight, then simple question, why you started? Then he has a passion, he would preserve this culture from his grandmother always using oil. This is the culture he would like to preserve. Then also, even the question why you don't expand your business, but it's too scared because he's really serious, he's so kind. He's scared to even have this responsibility to maintain their family as well. So that's why he's doing himself. Then afterwards, everyone we gave gift to him. Then Eddie suggested, but because he is doing by himself, he suggested new packing system. So even his kids can do it because it doesn't have to be straight. Square is really hard to put the label on the bottle. So this doesn't matter because at random is okay. Doesn't matter which layout it's going to be. Then the other side, right? Russ said just he kind of give confidence. What he does is good. That is his branding. So he cared family. That is his branding. So that is his message. But it's a good thing. He kept this presentation all the time in front of his computer. Whenever I visit, he has this. It's good, yeah. Then also, I checked Works Warm Heart website. Then Roxy said amazing thing. I realized that we are different as much as we are the same. Even they are from different culture, different background, even a different business, but we understand each other. So what we do, but before I explain, we have miscommunication, risk of investment, like maintenance. DTA, we are not designers, so we are helping designer how to communicate. Also, we help local business. Because when they need design, it's not the everyday. So we have to maintain the relationship as well. Then also we also help the marketplace as well. So we could trust. But some of the company also export their product international as well. So we suggest possibility. Then also design also us as well. We have like a role to play in this like a program as well. Then also how to sustain, also how to give the opportunity as well. Then not only like a DTA in talk program, like we have been done like many projects. Then also we have been working like many designers, not only Asia, also other countries as well. But this is our history. We started Tohoku, then another prefecture, Banara, also, but Tokyo is JR East, Japan Transportation Company, Japan Railway Company. They asked us to do this same program for the private company. Then also we did Bataan. It was fantastic, but we learned a lot. There was with Bangkok. We did also Satrana together. We worked with Satrana. Also, we are going to do another country as well. Yeah, this is what we collaborated such as this country. Then also Bataan was the first spin-off program model after Dotage in Japan. I think Dang mentioned about this, but she helped us a lot to make it happen. Then actually you can imagine we love traveling. We like to meet new people. We like to stay together. We have fun together, drink together. But now we can't do it. So sad. But also I wonder like, what is my role as well? Also I think maybe everyone maybe thinking what is the role. Then we talked with Ayumi-san, who has been helping our program for many years. Then she said, actually with this COVID-19 pandemic, I feel the country because we did DTA program in Tokyo every year, then it became closer, but it's feel like getting far away. But because we don't do something together, but which I love it. But I know the process because at the beginning, my friend said we can do something even like a few years later. But in DTA, like such like a micro scale program, like we need one day after we had a disaster or social problem. So yeah, we start from natural disaster. Now we think, yeah, we can do something like maybe even like after pandemic, even like a few years later, even 10 years later. I think many people have a problem, so we like to do something. The first, like, we are going to start from this month. As we're going to do like online event like this, just see what's going on for our friend. Then to ask what is that? Maybe it doesn't have to be like a government scale, micro scale, more like a small scale. It doesn't have to be active or not active. Even like other people, like as a friend project, doesn't matter what's going on. Maybe that could be kind of help other friend as well. Then maybe might be able to encourage friends as well. So we are going to knock the door, open the door to Asia. Hopefully we can start from this month. We will put a notification on our Facebook page. Then lastly, I hope I have time. But actually, I am a non-designer. Then actually, I can also help the people. Then it doesn't have to be designer. Then also designer needs someone to maintain the relationship with the client as well. Then also, that you don't have to be worried about. If you want to do something, maybe you can find a role. Doesn't matter now or maybe 10 years. Yeah, because it's important to acknowledge each other because yeah, everyone has a role to play. So doesn't have to be active, but it's going to be crazy. Everyone going to be like a really activists. It's going to be crazy world. So we need someone to support as well. So let's do it together one day. Then also I hope I can visit Philippines soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miki-san. BTA 2021 is very exciting. I'm sure everyone in the audience will also be excited to learn more about it. And it's really great to hear from someone who advocates design. And what really stuck out to me is the exchange between the designer and the business. And you get to see how the business plan and design really intersect, especially branding. So that's really interesting. And thank you so much for sharing that. Our next speaker will also share the other side of the coin, per se, with being a design studio in the branding process. So I'd like to reintroduce our next speaker, Mag Wong. Her laptop was just a bit nervous, as most devices are when it's time to talk. So that's fine. So Mag Wong, she is the founder and a graphic designer at Where's Got, a graphic design studio based in Kuala Lumpur. Their goal is to achieve timeless and engaging solutions through strategic storytelling, especially for small businesses. They have worked on a wide range of branding projects across different industries, from retail and lifestyle, and of course, to impact driven organizations. So, Mag, if you're ready, please take the stage.
Yes. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I was having a problem with the audio just now. So, all right. Just let me share my screen. You guys can see it right now.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Right. So, right. So let me make an introduction, like simple introduction of myself. I am a graphic designer and founder of Where's Got, and I'm Mac. So I was graduated in Hong Kong, and I came back to Malaysia in 2014. So I strongly believe in the sustainable business model and also human-centered design that supports issues like human equality, animal rights, culture, and environment. So with that belief, I set up my design studio in 2018. It's called Where's Got, and it's actually named after my cats. It's cute. And there are 6 team members now, including designers and design strategists. So last year, we managed to move to a new place in Paramount, which is selected as one of the 40 coolest neighborhood in the world in 2020. And the first lockdown, kind of during the pandemic, kind of bought us some time to really sit down and plan for this place and to design it. And we love it. So our studios, these are services that we do, and as follows, and today we're going to focus more on the branding side. An overview of our projects. Our work range from F&B clients, from menswear, women's wear design, packaging design, to stationery brands, illustration, booklet design, album design, and so on. But the middle part is actually one of our favorite projects, which is the annual Chinese New Year design. It is part of the studio initiative promoting the beauty of Chinese traditions and culture through mediums like game design, booklet, and poster design that tell the story of the Chinese myth. And this year, we managed to collaborate and came up with this packaging design for tomatoes. So generally, we love to work with small businesses. Why branding for small businesses? First of all, because we are small too. We are a team of 6, and we understand how small businesses struggles and what they need. Working with small businesses allow us to work with the right person. We have more freedom in choosing who we want to work with, and we're able to know the person behind it. Second is we are able to focus on the design purpose as well as the purpose of the business. So we are able to turn the good intention and the creative ideas together into a very tangible, practical, and purposeful form in the long term. Working with small businesses, the communication is more direct in a flatter hierarchy, which means we are able to talk to the business owner and really understand their visions and beliefs, and hopefully it resonates and same with us. The process from ideation to execution, it turns out much faster, and I believe it's better too. It's better understanding between clients and a higher level of trust. It takes time to build a trust with the clients, but I do believe in that. We are also able to collaborate with them, like not just working for. We are able to understand them at a more personal level. One step at a time, we hope that working with small businesses also enable us to design a brand that we are really proud of and positively impacting the community. Slowly, but surely, we hope that we can do that. So to share more ideas of why we love to work with small businesses, we'll go through some of our experience with some of the small businesses that we love. And the first one would be Cultivate. It is a sustainable urban farming, aims to provide safe food for all in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So we love it because their brand purpose is very simple and very positive. And first, they simply want to deliver safe and honest greens to the citizen. They want the produce to grow really healthy and strong through advanced clean technologies by reusing rainwater, like energy efficient fans, roof panels, and so on to regulate the temperature and water level. They never built the farm by destroying the lands or the forests, but instead they work with governments and try to look for the abandoned lands and repurpose them. Lastly, is because of the intention, they want to provide opportunities to the local communities to have a very happy team of workers, of farmers, working in a very clean and happy environment. So we strongly believe in their purpose and vision before we start working with them. And that's why we start to work on the branding in 2018 from their business proposal, from the market research, branding analysis to the result, which is the branding. So setting up branding for the farming industry during that time was quite challenging because back in 2018, most of the locals in Malaysia still prefer the traditional way of eating or purchasing vegetables. So a lot of brainstormings or discussions have done that. Finally, we're very happy that we're able to introduce a new way to market vegetable goods, which is a very complete different approach from traditional farming in terms of the customer buying experience, point of sales, and design communication. So we came up with the logo and the design elements, illustrations, graphic elements that convey messages, website designs, prints like business collaterals, social media, art directions, and also some of wayfinding, gallery, and information design at the farm. So last year, the pandemic hits, and it impacted the business quite hard because that's when the store closes, restaurants are forced to stop, and a lot of vegetable orders are canceled. So it means a large amount of vegetables actually left in the farm during the first lockdown. So in this case, immediately we actually come up with the solutions to work closely with the team and to come up with a platform, an e-commerce platform to put all the vegetable up and sell immediately in order to reduce as much waste as we could. So because of the pandemic, they also venture into retail and a lot of different adaptation happens during the pandemic. So it is an ongoing journey with the brand. It's been 3 years now since 2018, and we still love working with the brand simply because we support their vision of providing safe food, fair trade, minimal harm, minimal wastage to the land and environment and nature. Second, because we have a very high level of trust, and during the design process, it's very open, and we always try new ideas together to hopefully bring positive impact to the community. So the second case study is Jewel. It's a brand born during the pandemic. It's a playful pastry and delicious dessert owned by a Michelin star chef in San Francisco, United States. And we love this brand simply because it's very simple intention, which is to deliver joy. They approach us and they tell us that the pandemic was very bad in the US. I mean, it's in the world, but in US, like everybody trapped in the world, at home, and shops are forced to close, stop operating, and the situation is bad and people are getting very depressed. So the owner, Nick and Jenny, they just want to deliver their beautiful creations, some sweetness to these people. And simply because of that, we start working with them. And the design process is really fun because we have very good communications and a lot of discussions and understanding and trust throughout the process. So we came up with the brand together from concept development, from the logo design, from the character design that fits the idea of drooling, and come up with all the graphic elements to be applied on the packaging designs and shootings and social media and so on. So in this case, sustaining the brand, it's rather difficult most of the time, I think, because when we pass the brand guideline to them, and if it's not continue in a very well, if it's not conveyed in a very well manner, and I think it doesn't really bring out the purpose of the brand and also the message. So, but I'm very happy for them because this client, they managed to sustain the brand very well since the brand launch. They have followed by the brand guideline. They have come up with the every photo shooting, art directions, and social medias and stuff like that. It's very well maintained. And I strongly believe that the client's participation during the design process help the clients to understand what they want and how they can continue the brand in long run. So a good relationship with strong trust and understanding, it's very important to a brand or any kind of creative solutions. So what is the impact of branding? Do not create something that you don't genuinely believe in, because imagine the harm that you could be doing. In this case, I would like to use one of our studio research as an example to explain our good branding principles that we set for ourselves. So this is a project called United Functional Objects. It's called UFO in short. So it's a research project that we are working on with our furniture design partners and studio to explore the possibility of product design in Malaysia through the lens of vernacular architecture. The purpose of this brand, it's very simple. We want to create good local products that we're proud of, and it's vernacular inspired in terms of culture, lifestyle, local source materials, and makers. So this is an ongoing process of research, exploration, and self-reflections of the studio, because we hope to connect the local audience culturally through good product designs guided by the principle of good branding that we set for ourselves. We believe that a good branding has to visually pleasing and it tells a very honest story. It has to have a design context, connecting the audience through social, cultural, organizational, and economic setting. It has to be very functional and make a positive change. And lastly, just to make people happy. So because of this design purpose that we set for UFO, we hope that this spirit, this vernacular explorations should be applied on the branding as well. We want to connect people through our social cultural backgrounds and history through this vernacular culture in Malaysia. As you can see here, from the signages and packaging design during the past, it's multilingual and there are a lot of different expressions of typeface, graphic elements. So we want to apply that in our branding. And the initial visual of the logo was formed recently with both typography in Chinese typeface, in English, and hopefully in Malay, to be applied on this logo mark. And as well as the layout, placement and stuff, it's also heavily influenced by the vernacular culture. Speaking of this custom Chinese typeface, it's not only inspired by the illustration style that we can find in the very old school advertisement or signages. This typeface explorations, it's also inspired by the calligraphy, the brush stroke and the calligraphy, both you can find in English and Chinese. So this is an unreleased work in progress project that our studio is working on, but I think this research and branding explorations, it's very exciting to share. So in conclusion, I think there are three main points for a good branding. First, it has to make positive impact to the community. It will foster good relationship, not only with your clients, but also with your partners, your team members, the makers, the suppliers, and everyone who believes in the branding. Third, it's about sustaining the brand. It has to be guided by a constructive and future-proof brand guideline, which allows the brand to grow and evolve while keeping them on path with their purposes. So that's the end of the presentation. Thank you so much. Right.
Thank you so much, Mag. Yeah, it's really good that you were able to walk us through your process of branding through those different projects. And I can see a common thread of a level of trust between the studio and the business that you're working with as a common theme with you and Miki-san's talk. So before I introduce our last speaker, we would like to thank our sponsors, the Design Center of the Philippines and the Communication Design Association of the Philippines, for helping us make this talk happen. Now for our next speaker, she was actually a facilitator in the first talk, but today she is going to share about the organization that she's part of. So introducing Nikki Santos-Ocampo. She is the creative director at AltMobility, a group of policy advocates passionate about making transportation sustainable and inclusive. Their goal is to transform how Filipinos move around their cities through transport policies geared towards safety, accessibility, and dignity. So go ahead, Nikki, and you can start your talk.
Thank you so much, Liz. And thank you, everyone. Okay, let me just share my screen. Okay, sorry, how do I do this? Oh, good. There we go, okay. Wow, just saying, like my heart rate just tripled right now. I didn't think I would get this nervous, but Here we are. Okay, can everyone see my screen? Full screen. Yes, okay, thank goodness. Okay, so hi everyone. My presentation is called Beyond Branding, Visual Identity and Creativity as Keys to Propelling a Technical Advocacy. I apologize in advance if I talk a little bit fast. I'm just trying to be conscious of the time, but just let me know if I need to slow down a bit. So, oops. So here's one of the artworks that I can create using the brilliant system that Works of Art gave us. And I'll be explaining how this brand has evolved throughout the time that we've had it. AltMobility PH is a team of transport experts and professionals from various industries who are also ordinary commuters. That's significant because here in the Philippines, it's really, really hard to take public transport. I serve as the creative director, as Liz mentioned, and I'm one of two in-house graphic designers that basically make things pretty. As an organization, we've grown quite a bit since our last meeting with the studio, but compared to all of the other speakers that have gone before me, I realized that we're still pretty lean. And yeah, our mission is to empower Filipinos and Filipino commuters in influencing public transportation policies and help them shape and reshape the ways that they move around Philippine cities. Our vision is to provide dignified and sustainable mobility for every Filipino. So, funny story, our organization actually started with a pizza party. We were sitting in a friend's place talking about the many challenges that the Philippines faces, particularly when it comes to public transport and the urban architecture of Manila. It's, again, very difficult to get around any city in the Philippines without a car, and that's because our design here is very car-centric. Road space is dedicated to individually driven vehicles, while public transport and micromobility, such as biking and walking, are overlooked. A project we're currently dealing with right now is called the Pasig River Expressway by San Miguel, or PAREX for short. And they plan on building a tollway road on top and along the whole length of the Pasig River, as you can see at the bottom left right there. Big coincidence that we actually had Korean designer in Ashin in the previous session, because Seoul actually faced a very similar issue with the Cheonggyecheon River. I hope I pronounced that right. Back in the 70s, they also had the same plan where, because it was a river that had a lot of waste disposal, they decided to pour concrete over it in a move towards industrialization. So we're actually calling on all creatives to help us reimagine the Pasig River so that we can redirect this project towards a more people-centered and sustainable design. If people would search up the Cheonggyecheon River now, it's actually a beautiful, beautiful esplanade with lots of flowering trees where people walk and bike, and we really, really hope to emulate that, and also to emulate something like the Iloilo Esplanade. So if there's anyone here in the audience who has any ideas, visions, or even doodles, please contact me. You'll know where to find me after this. Hit me up on the Discord later. I'm very open to anyone talking to me. But going back, the tagline of this poster is called a call to building the ideal Philippines, which is one of our core ideas that we determined during our branding deep dive with Works of Art. And it actually became the anchor to our brand's entire aesthetic. So, oh my goodness, this is one of my favorite things to come out of the entire branding process. I can't stop fangirling about this every time I bring it up. It shows photos of the vibrant colors that we want to see here in the Philippines and its urban landscapes. It took a little while to get to this specific palette, which I'll explain more in the roundtable discussion, but it was so worth it because this is the key to making our branding so dynamic. AltMobility's brand in particular has gone through a lot of transformation, but it was so brilliant. From the moment we met the studio until now, the brand continues to grow with us. being a customizable system, we actually use it for different types of outputs beyond social media. It's a lot of fun because I could personally experiment with what we called our cutouts, which are pictures of either people or places processed into our signature palette, which we'll see later. The manual that Works of Art gave us originally prescribed a lot of big blocks of color with asymmetrical grids and did it in tandem with photographs. So this was really great because we actually have an archive of pictures from a competition a few years back, such as this one depicting life as a commuter here in the Philippines. So that was a great way to marry that and our very strong palette. But actually the outputs that I had to make had tables like this one. So I had to break the rules a little bit. I had to balance blocks of text with costing figures. So what I did was that I allowed the colors to depict lines while letting the text flow smoothly. Our audience are actually made up of researchers and people who have to deal with a lot of documents like this, very data heavy documents. So designing it like this was really refreshing for them. So again, here we have a sample of a project proposal table about train lines and bus lines. So here we can easily see costs, areas, and notes at a quick glance. But I also experiment with just allowing the colors to take center stage and pairing them with the matching cutouts that I mentioned earlier. What came out was this striking set of the 10 rights of the Magna Carta of Commuters, which is a bill we're currently lobbying with politicians. This is actually another great example of how flexible the brand can be. Here you can see a Lapu-Lapu statue on the left and the Liloan Lighthouse on the right, which are both landmarks in Cebu, who was one of our first partner cities when we had our recent bike lane building workshops. It allowed us to create more from the provided assets, as well as tailor ourselves to the local government units and stay true to our look. What was so wonderful about it is that we use Filipino symbols and we also recognize landmarks beyond Metro Manila. The other designer on my team also began experimenting with other shapes, and she came up with these two designs, which are really, really pretty as well. The one on the right-hand side is actually a proposed bike lane network we wanted to do here in Manila that we wished we could have executed during the pandemic, but fortunately didn't happen. So you can see that our brand takes inspiration from our culture and landscapes, literally. We're very inspired by all forms of creativity, not just graphic design. And looking at other people's works helps us stay rooted in Philippine design specifically and allows us to continuously reinterpret what that means. As Filipinos and as Asians in general, it's important that we take our natural sense of bayanihan or sense of community to build each other up, which has been very consistent throughout all of the speakers. It's the collaborative aspect of the brand that makes it so unique and elevates it beyond the idea of just being a marketing tool. For us, branding was the key to standing out with politicians while being a tonic to processing heavy documents and information among government employees and researchers. Design shapes our mindset and thus manifests into our landscapes. The people in our networks ask us why we bothered the brand at all, considering that content is supposed to matter more than aesthetics. And, I just tell them that you can see the impact that it makes when people want to read our documents and not theirs, because, they're just in Times New Roman 12, but you know what? I'm not gonna get into that. Great branding isn't just a package. It grows with the organization. Branding guides the organization visually in staying true to its philosophies and creates an identity that speaks even without the logo. Great design itself, in my opinion, is being able to communicate visually with the least amount of words. So I'll finish up with this. A logo is a name. A brand is an identity which speaks of the individual or organization without saying that name. And without an identity, that individual or organization will be lost and therefore cannot succeed. Very interesting that both Mag and Miki-san mentioned trust, because so the studio would establish that trust between the client, but for us as the client who would receive that branding, that enables us to establish trust with our audience just by visually communicating. So thank you so much to Works of Heart and to every speaker that has participated in all of the sessions. And yeah, looking forward to answering all your questions. Maraming salamat.
Thank you so much, Nikki. I also really do remember that session that we had with your team where I think 12 or 13 of you came to our office and we tried to understand what kind of future we really want to build. And it was really a great group of people that had perspectives from the policy making end. We have people, urban planners, we have you as a designer. So it was a really great session, and we're always happy to see how much you guys grown and have used the brand. So I think everyone, as well as me, is itching to get started on the roundtable session. So we'll be putting forward questions that we also ask ourselves as a design studio. So I'm excited to hear your thoughts. But before we get into the first question, I'd like to invite the audience to type in their questions in the Q&A box below, as we'll be answering some of your questions live. Okay, so Inya, you can go ahead and start us off with the first question.
Hey, thanks, Liz. So I think this talk is interesting because we have different perspectives in the whole process of design. We have someone who creates the branding, we have someone here who connects people, and then we also have someone who maintains the brand. So in the context of the pandemic, what I'm curious about is the role of branding and how maybe it has changed in this time. So I'm curious for Mag Wong, since you are the founder and graphic designer of Where's Good, I want to ask, like, has the role of branding changed in any way during the pandemic in terms of maybe perception, or maybe even within your team? How has things changed?
Okay, for for the branding part, I think it's mainly still the same. Like the progress of coming out with branding, to ask a lot of questions and understand the client. I think this aspect is still the same, but in terms of the way to communicate, it changed a lot because brand shifted from print to a lot to the digital side recently. We all sit at homes and we're stuck at home, and websites, social medias and stuff, it's the only channel to spread the message. From my experience throughout the past year during the pandemic, the businesses shift a lot from that to delivery. And basically we have to adapt very, very quickly on how to come up with the solutions. And the competitions on digital platform is very high. So in order to come up with a very precise, straightforward, meaningful messages to the audience with a very impactful visual, I think that's the very challenging part for us, as well as the team. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So for Miki-san, since you're very experienced in connecting different designers and collaborating with teams, how did this process of collaboration change, and what are your challenges that come with it? And also, what can we learn from diverse teams and the synergies involved?
But my agency, I have a client around the world, so that's why it doesn't affect it so much at the beginning. I mean, not beginning, not. But after like 2 months later, but I think we got job like from US to like make the poster to help the social workers. But in Japan side, as you may know, we are our average is 46 something compared to Philippines 26 something, right? So we are much behind digital platform. It was really challenging for the company's owners how to change, how to make it work. Then also we have also old system. We have like also wholesale, like making product also wholesale, then also shop, then also retail. Then I think we already built the system, so that's why it was really slow, but we had to change. But I think that change suddenly came. I think we supposed to do it within 10 years, but suddenly like we have to do now. Then so that's why I've been working many like a producer such as making even a chopstick, even like making furniture, even like a craft product. So, but it was hard to communicate. But since they have to use Zoom, even if they didn't use at all, always meeting. Come to this my place, but I think it didn't change. But which is really good. We started every week Zoom session with a company who is like more than 60 years old. They are eager to change because we need to change. We can when we need change, we have to face the problem. So that's why it's going to be starting to do it really naturally. But they also, but other thing, but for example, Craftsman, they has been working in the region. They're like a audience, like a consumer is just only like the local, but they don't have to do it so much for the digital platform. But they started to use it. Then also, this is really more important to make the story. Then also, customer want to see them in live directly, not through like a wholesale or a middleman. So I think communication has been changed in Japan. There was other thing that we've been talking about. Sorry, I think digital thing is really challenging because so much computer. Then we have to push the right information. So we need also branding and also what they are strong. Yeah. So we learn quite a lot within this 1 year.
Yeah, definitely there's some Zoom fatigue going on, and it's also a mainstay to keep teams in contact and engaged. So I want to ask Nikki, since I'm sure every brand now has to be more digitally present during the pandemic. So did branding play a bigger role during this time? How did it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. If we didn't brand, honestly, I don't think we would have gotten as far as we did. We were actually assessing our achievements throughout the year of 2020, and we realized that we achieved way more because we had our branding, because we managed to establish that. And how does one establish, again, trust when it's all in a digital space? Everyone mentioned how important it is to have a personal relationship. So how do you deal with that if you're speaking to an audience that you've never met? So that's how branding has helped us.
Okay, so I'd like to pass it on to Inigo to ask the next questions.
Thank you, Inya, for that. And thank you again, speakers, for the insightful talks that you had. For this one, I wanted to talk about branding as an investment. We know that branding takes a lot of time, a lot of effort and resources. So I wanted to understand it from the point of view of the three of you, which have different perspectives, right? So I wanted to begin with Nikki. Being part of AltMobility, an organization for social movement, at what point did you and your team decide that you wanted to invest in branding? And what are your insights on how branding and social movements can synergize?
Okay, so when we were first deciding on branding, we were really deciding on establishing just an identity, a forward-facing. And yeah, we were talking to a few other studios, but luckily we ended up worked apart, and it turned out so well because, again, our teams coming in, all 13 of us were very democratic that way. We asked every single one on the team for their opinion, and the the extent of that is that it's well, I'm kind of getting lost in it because I'm remembering all of the things that we were doing. We had
Yeah.
such a journey through it. I think it took us
Right.
around months, right? To
Yes.
the advocacy, especially since we're such an unusual organization in that sense. Like, how do you brand a technical group? I remember the proposals were very much based on Swift design at first, and it looked very, very different. The logo itself had stayed a little bit consistent, the whole long logo, and the team moved back and forth between it. And we were saying, there's something we need to push it a little bit more, just a little bit more, until we arrived at the final product.
Yeah, yeah, I understand. I remember the journey that we both went through. It was kind of a roller coaster, but it worked out really well. So thank you for that. So I wanted to ask now, Mag, on the perspective as a founder of your own studio, what's the conversation like when you pitch branding as a service offering to small businesses? Like, how does the discussion look like?
Sorry, how does the what? The last sentence?
How does the discussion look like?
You mean throughout the branding process, right?
Uh, Specifically regarding the pitch, like at the beginning, when you want to when you meet the client and then you give the idea that they'll need to invest in branding and they'll have to dedicate resource to it, a specific amount of time for it, and they'll need to meet you for meetings and those approvals and all those things. How do you pitch the idea of them investing in branding?
I think first of all, we're very lucky that our clients always approach us, and I think that's where the trust begin. So we came out with a lot of discussions or conversation before we really engage in working together, because I really believe in that we need to really understand the client, and we have the same alignment on the vision and the things that we want to do, the storytelling, things like that, before we start working together. And when we reach that level of understanding each other, then we start discussing about brand. And I always come up with a lot of questions like, why you want to do this? What kind of impact that you want to do? If you're just coming to us because you want to earn money, that's what our studio don't really believe in. So we always spend a lot of time at the beginning of trying to gather all the data, all the things that the client has in mind, and then we organize their thoughts, come up with that analysis. A lot of research and analysis, only we come up with the directions, the way to convey all the messages. So things like that. We always put the very beginning stage important before we start exploring any visuals, because to be honest, I think from my perspective, visual is very secondary. I think a very beautiful part of the branding is to tell a story, to be very honest to your audience, to your people, and the owner itself has to believe in that brand as well as the designer. And that's when the connection comes in, the emotions, and I think that's when good branding came out.
Wow, okay, that's so great to hear. So I'm very happy that a lot of your clients are like this. But just a follow-up question. I wanted to know if you've experienced some clients that tend to not have the same ideals that you have, but they really push to want to have that partnership with you. So have you had that type of experience from before?
Definitely had, because that's an experience, like an explorations of looking for what I want and what I don't want to do. So definitely I have that experience. And To be responsible, of course, I have to finish it. But if I find out that the conversation it's not aligned, it will actually make me unhappy as well during the design process. And I actually think that reflects on the branding. So, but yeah, just to be more responsible, I will still prepare everything that is needed for the brand to sustain and for the brand owner, like whether or not if they believe in our vision, we still try to convey what we believe in to them. So throughout that process, if you find that, oh, this is not the thing that it fits your studio, then maybe we avoid that in future. Yeah.
Okay.
Like that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Mac, for that. So, branding as an investment. So I wanted to go with Miki-san. Because of programs like Door to Asia, you get to see what happens after brands go through the transformation. And do you have any thoughts on how businesses and organizations leverage their brand further after the branding is done and it has been turned over to them?
When I talk about our program DTA, our program is going to suggest a possibility. Then afterwards, we have to discuss what's going to take. But some like a possibility designer suggests is even like a 10 years later, even like from tomorrow. So I think we try to explain them. This is kind of it's not the product from supermarket. You're going to take it or not. It's more like you can consider what's going to start. So that is the maintenance. It's not easy. Then, but sometimes they want they need money, also they also need the timing as well. They have to choose the right moment. Even if they know what they want, they need. They have to wait until it's going to have a good time. But actually, pandemic like helped us to push the brand, so because they need to change. So we are in discussion with them at the moment. Yeah.
Okay, okay, thank you for that. I wanted to follow up a question. This is actually from one of the audience. They asked that you mentioned trust in your talk, right? And how it's very important to establish that between the designer and the client or the business. So the question is, trust normally takes a long time to build, and branding is the first step, but it takes a lot of investment. So do you have what are your strategies to build trust between the designer and the business?
It's hard because like, I believe like everyone is very good people, very
Right.
kind. Then, but we have to like have to start from like trust, even like we how it's work. But if it doesn't work, well, obviously it doesn't work. But we have to see another opportunity. But we have to be open first, then to build that distrust relationship. Then also, if something wrong, we have to seek the problem, because that may be the door to open their heart as well, open their like a brand identity as well. Then, but actually nowadays, like, with I'm the connector like, to match the good designer. Like, I know like everyone, all designer are good. Then, but we have to try to understand before I introduce. But now like I try to go to see the same level. I go to the factory. I help one day to go in the line. Then even like agriculture side, I'm helping like harvesting. But afterwards, because they don't talk, I think their language is not designer language. Because
Right.
you have to see like I think what they do is always showing like what they do. Because they use different language. You have to understand through the experience sometime as well. Then someone really shy, but someone doesn't talk in the point as well. So we have to try to do yeah, it's different. Yeah, didn't know strategy. Just trying hard to build understand.
Okay, thank you very much for
Mm.
that. I think you do that very difficult role of doing the balancing act between communicating with the business and the designers, which you just described as it's really hard. So thank you very much for doing all these things for us. So thank you for your response. So now I turn you over to Liz for the next few questions.
Thanks, Inigo. Yeah, so since we were able to talk about branding as a process and also as an investment, we wanted the next question to hone in on the idea of how do we measure the success of branding, which I admit is a very big and hard question. So I hope that you guys will have some insights or some case studies or any experiences that you'd like to share. So when we first conceptualized this topic on branding, we really saw the importance of a forward thinking mindset. That's why it's messages of a better future. So it's really to create an identity that can rally people behind the future that you imagine. But in the business sense or in the organization sense, palpable change or metrics are very important to them. I think we were able to touch up on a bit about it earlier. And I wanted to ask if you have any frameworks, metrics that you use to measure, even just to indicate that branding was successful. Yeah, so maybe Mag can start.
That's a big question. Yeah, but if I were to go back to the very initial intention of me, why am I doing branding or why am I doing design for people? I think it's simply because I hope that this as a tool will make a change. Like, I always have this vision of having, it's a little bit dreamy, but I always have this vision of having a good world with a very good environment and happy place for my animals, my pets and kids and stuff like that. But to reach that, I think we have to solve problems. We have to come up with a lot of solutions for a lot of issues that we have right now. And I think that's when the design comes in and the brand comes in. It helps to make change. It helps to create solutions and create beautiful stories simply to move people, to keep people moving forward with hopes and passions. So I think that's a little bit big frame, but in short, design or even branding or brand guideline is just a tool to shape good framework, good businesses, and giving them a hope and guidance to continue. So branding is just a tool. Like we hope that through this tool we can influence the people around us to continue doing good things, good businesses for the people, for the environment. So yeah, that's mine. Yeah, dream of doing a branding, and yeah. So, but you just mentioned that like what is the framework to came up with a good branding, right? So I think most of the time people come to us for help on branding because they are lost or they don't know where to start with. They have a lot of great ideas, wonderful ideas that they want to share or apply, but they don't know how. So I think that's when the branding designer comes in to help them to organize the thoughts. And just like what Nikki-san mentioned, it's like a bridge. It's like everyone has good ideas, everyone is good people, but how you bring that understanding, that message, and apply it. So I think organizations and turning all this data into simple, beautiful visual, it's also part of our job and also to sustain it. Yeah. Did I answer the questions?
And thank you so much for also sharing that. A lot of people also share that same dream with you. And I like how you connected it to what Miki-san said and Nikki said, that really when we do branding, it has that sense of hope and optimism for what we could do. And storytelling is a great tool for that. I also wanted to know your thoughts about, since we are talking about branding and social impact. So, from what I'm understanding, what you shared is that branding is more of a tool, but not social impact itself, right?
Branding is a tool that helps to bring out the message and make an impact. I think it's design is just a tool, but I think the core value of the business owner or the people, it's what matters to the world. So I think in terms of tool, I think it's just helping people to visualize that dream and convey the message, convey the wonderful view to the people. Yeah. So
What do you think, Nikki-san, about measuring the success of branding, or kind of the role of branding in social impact?
sorry, is that a question for Miki or me?
It's for Miki-san.
Okay, cool.
So, can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Yeah, so we wanted to ask if you make use of any framework or metric to measure the success of branding, or kind of what are the indicators you look for to say that this branding was successful?
It's maybe I can say love the branding, like love I think maybe whole team have to love the brand. Then also it have to come from like employee as well. Doesn't have to be owner of the business. Then it might be start from small love, but it have to make it grow. Then also with that love, like we can also expand to others. But it's really hard. But love is quite easy to say, but love is hard to grow. Yeah, I know that, but it's hard. Then with how, like Mark said, like, branding the tool, like design the tool, but we have to use the tool to make it grow, to make it to big love. Then also it's hard to maintain as well, but we have to believe this is going to become as well.
Yeah, branding really is a commitment on both ends, for a designer and for a business. And I want to throw the question to Nikki, more of, after a year of sustaining your brand identity, what positive effects have you observed from it? So maybe we can get an idea of what those indicators could be.
Okay. So usually a business would measure by social media statistics how much their followers have grown across Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I would think that's for more of a product or retail kind of business, but for us working with advocacy, we had to determine, even though our follower growth was really great, it's not viral or anything, and we said, okay, so we have more people listening to us, but is it enough? And we determined that actually it is, because the people that we are reaching out to are exactly our target audience. They're the ones that can also further our advocacy. These are people that also believe in urban transport and improving their local landscape. One of the biggest indicators actually is when we did the bike lane building workshop with Cebu, they were also giving us updates on how well they were, if the bike lanes were working. Actually, I can see that Happy Garaje is in the audience. I'd like to give a shout out to them. And if it's possible, can I ask you, how are the bike lanes in Cebu? Are they working? Are they still being maintained? Are they able to speak, or do they put it in the chat? I'd really like to hear from them. Very, very wonderful studio. For those who don't know, please do check out their work. Maybe we'll wait for them in the chat. But yeah, things like that.
Okay, I think we'll just wait for their answer in a bit, but now we'll be pulling questions from the Q&A box. So we won't have time to answer all of your questions, but don't worry, the conversation will still continue. over at our Discord group. So I'd like Inya to pull out a question from the Q&A and ask it to our speakers.
Okay, so there's a question for Miki-san. As a connector, do you need to make sure designer and client click also in terms of dynamics and relationship? And to follow up with that, how do you kind of assess or feel the pulse of how they could effectively work together and collaborate?
Yeah, I think first I have to understand the client first, then what they need. But afterwards, just throw the dice. Just believe that they are going to do or not. But I think we have to also, of course, I will check what they can do. So, but I think important thing is communication. Then I think designer, most of the designer can achieve, but to deliver really good design. Then I think the difference we can say is just only like how much they understand what they really need. That make huge difference. Of course, we understand style, but we understand what they're going to sell, and what they need. But the important thing is how much they tried their best. Yeah, but for them it's hard. But I did like also big company as well. Big company also they pay sometimes good. Then that might be like a good energy, but it doesn't work sometimes because if they don't understand. So
Okay.
did I answer okay? But I think the communication is important.
Yes, definitely. So I think this is a follow-up question from one of the audience members. So after listening to your clients and thinking about what their needs are, so what is the next step in the process after that? And how does one go about developing the visual language and ideas for that specific brand or project?
I think that might be like Mark might be the best person to answer this.
Oh yes,
Maybe, yeah.
my bad. I think Mag would, would be the perfect person to answer that question.
I pass to you.
Okay, the question was after understanding the client and what's next, right?
Yes.
Okay. I think a lot of designers I met, young designers especially, I think they have a lot of ego on trying to come up with design that they wish to do. But I think for branding and also design, that's not really the right way, because as we keep mentioning, understanding it's the key. Because we as a designer, we are here to solve problem. We are not here to perform our designs and stuff. So understanding, listening, asking a lot of questions is definitely the first step. And from that, how you can also combine your creative ideas, your imaginations and stuff, and put that into directions for the clients. I think that it's very important. So market research would help. Speaking to people, surveying and stuff would help. I think we need to really understand the client and also the audience, and only we come up with the visual ideas that we think it fits the market. So that's the very general process that I have during the branding process. And of course, throughout the process, the client might not buy you on certain visuals or stuff like that, but that's also part of the communication. We strongly believe that we cannot just create something that the client don't buy or don't like, because if the client doesn't agree on that, the brand wouldn't continue, and you can't solve a problem with that situation. So yeah, again, it's a lot of trust and understanding. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hey, thank you for your answer, Mag. Yeah, it's definitely a lot of back and forth. You need to understand both sides of the whole design process. So Thank you for the answer, also Miki-san. So Inigo, would you like to pull out a question from the Q&A box?
Okay, so I would like to direct this question to Nikki. I think one of our audience would like some of your help because he or she understands that branding is one of the most important things to have as an organization. But how can he or she try to convince their C-suite bosses, like CEOs, CFOs, that they need to do that branding or to do that investment in order to make themselves stand out or to help communicate their goals and values as an organization better to the world?
Ooh, okay. When we're talking about C-suite bosses, their language is always statistics.
Okay.
They're gonna need you to pull up the Excel file and say, this is how much sales we're going to get if we get the branding. It's very financial. Um, for any client, understand where they're coming from first and know what language that they speak. That's how you can design for them. Because, of course, especially since a lot of designers as artists, we have a lot of emotional investment when we make our output. So yeah, make sure that when you do create an output for people like that, know where they're coming from. That way you can really lessen the heartbreak when dealing with a client that doesn't really, you're trying to tell them a message and they're not really understanding it. So you have to be the person to understand them.
Okay, thank you for that, Nikki. I think you've had your fair share of trying to convince people about the importance of branding and creative direction, right? So thank you for that. I would like to pull out another question. I would like to direct this to Mag. Uh, a participant says that your portfolio is so awesome. As a small branding studio, does your personal style come out very often in your work? When does it come out and when does it not?
Um, a lot of people pull this question to me. If like if you really have a personal style or how you apply that or something like that, but actually I don't feel it during. I actually don't feel the idea of putting my personal style in design because I probably that happens like during the process of my design exploration, but I always focus on why and what I want to do first. So yeah, and I I always try to set a standard for the studio. And actually from the studio work that you see, it's not only from my work, it's the portfolio of the teammates. We 6 of us work together and it has different stylings and stuff, but we tend to keep that standard and tend to keep the brand story shine. You know what I'm saying? Like the design style, it's not the most important thing to us. So yeah, I think it's like unintentionally we try to keep a certain standard, a certain styling at Red Studio, but that's always not the main thing that we think of. Yeah, well, throughout the design process, we always research a lot and pull out a lot of references from different countries or designers and stuff. And we try to see whichever direction fits that problem and solution. So yeah, and after that, we use our own way to bring out that method. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I think the participant would have a better idea of how your process goes. What's the train of thought when it comes to dealing with the different creative direction that you can take. And thank you so much for that. So I turn it over to you, Liz, for more questions.
Yeah, I have a question that is related to the previous one you answered, Mag. So, how do you make small businesses, especially since they're the ones with more at stake, more open to design that is more unconventional or something that might push their expectations? So, they cited Drool as an example because they think the character is so different, but also automatically you feel joyful when you see it.
So the question was how, sorry, can you come again?
Yeah. So, how do you go about when your client is not open to
Okay.
unconventional times designs that are not common to them, or they haven't experienced that have seen that kind of design?
I think most of the time the client, it's not that a client is not open, but it's that they are not aware that this is one of the creative solutions that we can go for. I think because we are the designer, of course we can approach, like we can find a lot of crazy creative ideas on different platforms, like or news or whatever. But I think the client is different from us. They think differently and they focus more probably on the solutions and the business part or statistic or whatever. They are different from us. So I think we can't just reject them and think that they are not open a lot of time. So most of the time I will try to educate them first, or try to do a lot of research, show them, oh, there are a lot of solutions in the world that, and it's interesting, and the effect is good, the audiences resonates with it, and it earns money, something like that. And when they're exposed to that, I think they will be more open and believe in us. So again, it's about communication. Yeah.
Yeah, and I really think that sharing portfolios or case studies like what you did earlier is really one of the ways that people can push for design and branding to their organizations, because these are evidences or proofs that these things happen and can work. So
Mhm.
yeah, I guess that's all the time we have for audience questions, but I'd like to ask the speakers one last question. So it's been a theme with our talks that we ask our speakers to share our dreams. So because to dream and to hope really is a very important thing in doing social impact work. So I'd like all of our speakers to share with us what does a better future look like to you? So, just to contextualize it, you can answer it in the perspective of your organization. So, what kind of better future do you imagine for your organization? I think maybe we can start with Nikki.
More bike lanes. Kidding.
Yeah.
But here in the Philippines, that's really one of our biggest goals, honestly, to change public transport here in the Philippines, especially since it's an archipelago. So lots of islands. That's I think our main difficulty, physical difficulty. And in addition to that, there are many regional. Each local government unit acts on its own. So having to continuously readjust to each new local government unit is part of the struggle. And hopefully we will be able to speak to them also in literally in their language, and be able to communicate the importance of improving public transport here in the Philippines.
Thank you, Nikki. Maybe we can ask Mag to share her dream with us. Mag, would you like to share?
Sorry, I muted just now. Yeah. Okay. I think my future expectation is again very simple, making good change to the world and environment. But of course, we need people to do that. So I think the design education and the openness of the overall general like industry, it's also very important. We need to connect people who have the good intentions together, small businesses or people like Miki-san or designers or students or whatever. I think we have to come together through a lot of maybe platform like this to really discuss about the issues and come up with solutions. And yeah, in order to reach my goal, which is to do good thing to my favorite nature and just animals. Yeah.
Okay, how about you, Miki-san?
Bicycle. Bicycle can change the world, but I love bicycle. But actually, we to understand difference is really important. But so I saw the question like why I decided to on creative industry. But for me, like a personal level, like, as Japanese, Japan is quite close because language barrier. Then, but I see the people like artists or illustrator, for example, they have to change their style to match the market. Because the market trend change, they had to change their style as well. Because they need job, they need project. But if you open world market, they don't have to change. We can find the place they can play as well. Then also, for me, also using .asia is our ideal program because when it was 2011 or something like when I first visited Shanghai and Singapore, all creatives they connect each other. But unless Japan is more like a really close. As me, you may know just only like a famous name, not like not having updated yet. Even like we have great designer. So I would like everyone to access each other easily. Then also we can do same thing for good. But we can see the same goal. Then to do it to understand the difference.
Right.
Right.
Thank you so much for sharing your dreams, Nikki, Mag, and Miki-san. Truly, I think what I really was able to see during this talk is that there are a lot of players when it comes to branding. You have the client, you have the designers, and there's also a third player where it's the audience or the people that the brand benefits. And it's really important to listen to all of those things. And although we are all human and we all have our own experiences and kind of expertise that we bring to the table, we should always be kind of open and listen to what each one can bring and can enrich with this design and what branding that can come out of it. So yeah, I'm really happy that we were able to get people from different sides of the coin. So like we have Mag, we have Miki-san and Nikki, and I was able to understand better the kind of future that we all kind of dream. And branding is a way to communicate that narrative for more people who have the same dream to come together. So I do believe a branding is a powerful tool in social impact. How about you, Inya and Inigo? I'd like to invite you to also share your insights from today's talk. Let's start with Inya.
What I got from this talk is that branding is kind of like an emotional thing that every player of the process is involved in. Everybody in the process should be happy with it, and also how to measure that kind of success, which I was really looking forward to hearing. It's so hard to really pinpoint the metric, but you can kind of sense the visceral feeling, I guess, of having delightful branding that can kind of tell the story of what the founders of these businesses or organizations want to communicate. So yeah, I would like to know your insights, Inigo.
Wow. Just hearing the three speakers from the perspective of different parts of the branding process, it really makes me wonder on how powerful branding can be and where we can really take it. But for me, what really struck me the most was trust seems to be a common thread amongst all three. And again, from different levels, because from Mag and for Miki-san, it was more like the trust between the relationship of the designer and the client. That if it's there, a good branding output can be formed. And then Nikki talked about trust being between, if there's good branding, trust can be formed between the client and their audience. Like they're able to communicate well of who they are, what they want to do. And for me, in my head, I think that after a good branding, the audience can look back and check, oh, that's a nice branding. See who made that. And if they're able to see and find out who the designer is, we go to a full circle of the whole trust relationship. And the designer may be an individual or an agency, gets that little recognition, and the audience will have that would have gained that little trust for the designer. So it's just great. It's amazing, and it's a new realization for me. So thank you very much to all the speakers for that.
Yeah, definitely branding is difficult. That's also one of the key takeaways from this call, but it's also very important. And I think I'm very grateful for people like you guys, like for Miki-san being the wingman of designers to, or like the door of designers to businesses, for Mag for putting out really good branding work, and for organizations that of like AltMobility that believe in branding. So if we have more people like you, definitely it's going to whet the appetite of this ecosystem to accept branding and to do more of it. So before we end this session, we'd like to thank the Design Center of the Philippines again for being one of our partners for this talk. They have recently begun accepting entries for this year's Good Design Award Philippines. We will flash the website link on the screen. There we go. So the Good Design Award is a national biennial design excellence recognition system that seeks to discover local artists, designers, and businesses with outstanding designs that embody the universal design values of form, function, innovation, plus the Philippine value of malasakit or compassion. So to submit your entries, you can just go to the link flashed on the screen. So I'd also like to plug Miki-san's event. So they have another Door to Asia event for 2021. It will be online. So you can also check that out. So again, thank you everyone for spending your Saturday with us. If you would like to join, we have a Discord group called the Good Design Club, which is an open space for designers and members of social organizations to connect, collaborate, and converse. Through our Discord community, we hope that this space will become a starting point for those interested in working on projects for impact. So this marks the end of the talk, but also just the beginning of the conversation. So you can follow our speakers and works of art through the social media accounts flashed on the screen. So again, thank you so much, everyone, and to our speakers.
Thank you and congrats, everyone.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much. Good job, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Nice meeting you.
I'm so sorry at the beginning, the audio problems.
No, it's okay.
It was so nervous at the beginning. yeah, but I'm good now.
I'm sorry, it was my fault.
Your fault. Maybe you come in and I cannot come in. Sorry. Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Nice meeting you as well, Mag. Nice meeting you, Miki-san. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk with us.
It's great. It has been great talk for 2 days. I took off yesterday as well. Yesterday was amazing as well. Something a bit difficult as well to understand on the government side. But great. Also yesterday, also this morning, I messaged to Roxy. I might be only one only men.
And you're nervous?
No, yeah, you over there. So
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Yeah. It's good to see you guys.
Yeah, always good.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mickey's. Oh, Roxy.
Roxy, peace jump.
Thanks.
Congrats, guys.
This is
Thank you and goodbye.
jump, peace jump. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Miki-san, just let me know if you need any help for the Adult Asia thing.
Yeah, we have.
Okay, connect.
Yeah, connect. Love, I love.
Love. Okay. Right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Shall I leave? So, yeah, thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.